And Manuel, do you want to introduce yourself and your topic today?
Sure. Thank you, Alan, for letting me present. The purpose of this presentation is I know you are all recruiting people. That's part of their jobs and what they're looking for. The interest of me participating is for those that either they're employed now or they're looking to be employed in the future. This may be another alternative, especially for those that may feel burnout or not really having any more excitement about the current work at corporate, and we're looking for some other more interesting or an independent type of activity. So that's the purpose, just to know there is another strategy if they want to look at the market. I'm gonna make an introduction briefly here, but then if you guys want to know more about Sunbelt, I will leave that to the end about some questions and answers of what we do and how we can solve this for some of the veterans that are looking. So anyway, the goals is basically saying what is really what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and business ownership is it is for me or not. How do I find that out? And also just to, if you're interested, just to know the tools and kind of the process and all the other options. And then a little bit in the details of, what do I need to do to find the right business, financing, making offers, and the whole process in itself of buying a business. Very interesting enough is Minnesota is one of the largest states for business ownership. There is an index that the Kaufman Foundation, publish, every other, 3 or 4 years. They publish, different metrics related to entrepreneurship. But in terms of business ownership, this index shows how much of the businesses, are owned by small, employees, 25 or less employees. So the state of Minnesota is about, 8% or so, 8 and change, 7 probably in few previous years. That's very interesting because there is a lot of small businesses in Minnesota, and that's been pretty interesting. For us, especially how this office, in particular in Minneapolis, has been able to grow and how many transactions we have over the past 20 years. Florida and Colorado and California, there is a lot of startups in Colorado, but certainly California, Minnesota, and Florida stay out of just the main startup cycle just by the transaction of new businesses, with a lot of collaboration from the Small Business Administration, the SBA, to finance those. This is a quote that I like from a couple of professors that teach at Harvard about people that want to buy businesses. So this notion of finding a job is also coming all the way to the higher education system and saying, you can go this path and try to build your own way through some corporation, or be developing plans and prototyping kind of the startup type of business, or you can buy an existing business, which is a living, breathing organization, and start making decisions that have direct consequences to the bottom line the following day. So I think this captures the alternatives for entrepreneurs in terms of starting from scratch and building and having sweat equity into this for many years, the opportunity to eventually buy something that is already established, brings financial rewards almost instantly, and it is a challenge because it's like a drinking from a fire hose when you start in a business that you haven't known before. I personally, myself, I bought probably 5 businesses so far, sold 3 of them, still own 2, and I just really enjoy getting to build something and making it better. So this is a great opportunity for those, and for me also that don't want to do the same things every day. This provides a lot of flexibility and interesting challenges along the way. So, what are the benefits? I think, some of these are pretty obvious. You buy an existing business, you get immediate revenue. You are paying yourself a salary, but at the same time, you are owning more and more of the business, assuming that you are financing to start. So the business itself is going to grow. It's like, having appreciation on real estate. You own the assets, even though they're appreciated, the value of that business can grow based on the cash flow they generate. It's really, about having control. It is risky, but also you make that risk manageable, and you decide, how or where to go. There are employees, services, reputation in terms of brand and recognition. There are vendor relationships. So it's a whole ecosystem. There's a lot of value, both tangible and intangible. And most likely, somebody interested in selling a small business will be looking to, help you to transition in that way. They will also, the seller would like to make sure that the legacy is still there after, they move on. So, should you become a business owner? And I think it's not necessarily, for you to hire recruiting people, but for the people that are looking for a job and say, hey, I know you're looking for this job. I have these opportunities. They may be something else. If you're looking to buy for an income replacement, that will be basically buying a job. But some people, are really looking to, I'm burned out of this. I don't want to be in this large corporation. I feel lost. And eventually they're looking to make a transition. So those between, income replacement and corporate burnout, I would say that's 80% of the reasons we see people coming here. Business in terms of investment and growth, they're usually more strategic buyers. They're usually already business owners in the space, and they continue to grow. Most likely, the acquisition strategy has been because of the lack of employment. People cannot get enough good qualified people, so they are looking to buy companies that will bring the trained employees with them. So, is the candidate, the buyer, interested in being independent? This is a lot of independence. It's basically for people that want to do it their own way, except when buying a franchise. We do sell many franchises, but if people want to be independent, we'll probably suggest don't do it. You don't want to fight with the systems that the franchisor already had established, and that may be a frustration if somebody wants to go their own path. Are you willing to take risk? I think most in the audience will say yes, but yes to a degree. So there are different levels of risk. There are different types of businesses in different industries. Obviously, a franchise is a lower risk, but that also requires more structure. How much money is available? Do I have the money to buy a business? That's one of the most critical questions for buyers that I know about. And usually it's way less than they think they need to buy a business. Anyway, that's some business can be relocated too, so that can be a convenient aspect. So if I want to buy a business, how do I value the business? How do I know how much money is there to be made, and what is a competitive price and valuation for that business? It all comes down to what is the earning power of the business. So the business, a small business, should pay enough salary to the owner, and usually for this scenario, we're talking about an owner operator, somebody that is going to be operating the business and probably running full time, or 25 hours or more of the time. Only over time they grow their position and start having management in place, so they can do that and start looking to exit at some point. But let's just assume we start. I'm going to have my salary. I'm going to be able to pay my loan, and I'm going to have a cushion. And that cushion can be for working capital, expansion, other investments, things like that. And most banks would like for a minimum of 25% cushion. So if a business, I'm buying it for, I would say, make numbers simple, $100,000. I probably would need that to be able to pay, $20,000 on debt service I'm going to be making another $60,000 or $70,000 salary, and I'm going to have $10,000 or $20,000 left for whatever happens. That's basically the math. As you buy more expensive businesses, then the opportunity to leverage that it becomes really interesting, and obviously the opportunity to get over $100,000 salary without a problem. The business should be able to pay that and more. So, what do sellers want? That's what the buyers are looking for. What the sellers want? Well, most of the sellers want just to cash out. They want to liquidate their investment. Most of the small business owners have most of their net worth tied to the business. 80% of their money is still tied in the business, and at some point they would like to, liquidate that and get cash. So, seller financing is very common. They will be willing to provide some sort of support for the buyer and play the bank. Instead of just getting all cash, they can also get some money up front, pay over time, and eventually that will help them to, to get some interest and defer taxes and all that. When seller finance is involved, obviously, people are saying, I believe this business is going to continue, so I'm willing to lend to you, both, putting trust on the buyer and also helping the seller. So, it's not unusual for the seller to be asking, show me your credit, show me your credit scores. The bank will be asking for, statements, tax returns, and everything. So it's probably, expected that a seller will be asking buyer for similar terms and, talk to an accountant or a lawyer to make sure things are right. Talking about financing up, there are basically two important topics here. If I'm gonna do, if I'm gonna do a seller financing, probably, I can ask for a down payment that all the way from 30% to 80%. We don't recommend businesses to be, less than 30% down payment, because then, somebody can just walk out and say, hey, this is not for me, take your money or your business back, I'm done with it. I think a 30% or more of a down payment is a big commitment that will make people start looking into, different, perspective of making sure they're making payments and they're committed. When I'm talking about 80%, that's basically when somebody says, yeah, I'll almost pay you cash, but I want to have this money reserve. So I want to make sure that if things happen the way, you told me they're going to happen, or that key employees stay in place, or you can really help me with the transition, then we can pay you the remaining 20%, either through a note or through an earn-out or things like that. The SBA financing is very attractive because then people can buy a business with just 20% down, sometimes even 15% down. So, the leverage, the way we look at this is, I'm sorry, I keep playing with this. The way people can look at this is, if I have, an SBA financing of just 20% down, the bank is likely going to finance about 70%, and the sellers still have to do some, what we call a seller's carry for 10%. So at the end of the day, you're leveraging your money 5 to 1. So you're buying a business that is $100,000 with only 20% down, $20,000, and then you have, a note usually for 10 years to pay the balance. But if let's say this business that is worth $100,000 can pay me $60,000 a year, I only need 1/3 of my salary to buy a business that is going to give me my own employment. When there is seller financing, the leverage is way less. We talk about 30 to 80. Most likely, it's going to be 30 to 50 down payment from the buyer, and the leverage is less. But also the ability to pay the debt and turn, clean up the balance sheet for a way to say it, and make sure there is no leverage in the business for liquidity or other purposes. That can also be attractive. Sources of capital, how the buyers are looking to get this money. Well, cash obviously is interesting, and if it's available, that's great. But, even a home equity loan can get you what you need to do. Any securities, any stocks, any bonds, whatever, retirement plans. There are 2 or 3 different plans when people can take their IRA or 401k without paying penalties or taxes on it, and they can invest in a business. It will be the equivalent to rebalancing their portfolio and just having stock on a new company in a different entity. Obviously, the SBA, we do probably 80% of our businesses through SBA financing, and as I've been saying, the seller. This is about the process. For the process, we can think about, I would say, 2 to 3 months. And the first step is, somebody presents an offer. I want to talk to the buyer and then explain them, what they are looking for. We will use some confidentiality and non-disclosure in that. And then, we'll tell them, hey, this is interesting. Please review the financials. Make sure everything is what you're looking for. And if this is attractive to you, is a good fit, is the industry, is the right size, is the right location, the type of activities. If all that makes sense to you, then, I'll suggest you, Mr. Buyer, meet the, Mrs. Seller, and talk about this and get to know each other a little bit, ask some other questions, and see if, there's really, an interest on both sides. It is really important on this process that people, click with each other. It is a financial transaction for sure, but it's a very strong emotional transactions at times. People are living, the legacy. They're selling something they put, 20 years effort into it, and then they're looking to retirement. So there is a mix of emotions. And for a buyer, especially for the first-time buyer that is looking to buy a business, there is all this uncertainty and risk and confusion, and they're making a big decision. So sometimes, buying a business can be seen as the largest decisions made in life, besides, buying a big house or, deciding who you marry. Those are things that are really impactful over time. So after that, obviously there is an offer. The offers are always contingent. There are contingencies for review of financials, review of securing financing, make sure the lease can be transferred if there is real estate, that all the permits or whatever are there. The due diligence basically is for the banks, the buyer, and any other advisor to review, make sure that the information can be verifiable and is clear and understood. There are not, hidden skeletons in the closet, things like that. Previous, lawsuits or whatever that may be impactful. So that time everything is clear, and then we finally, go to closing. As mentioned, 2 to 3 months is typical around here. Top 10 mistakes buyer make. I think, this is just a list of, I would say, the reasons why some of the transactions don't close. And, sometimes we say, hey, talk to somebody that is in the process of selling and buying businesses all day, and that's what they do. Some people, would like to do a loan and involve their advisors later, and sometimes their advisors tell them too late, this is not going to work for you for these reasons. So everybody gets disenchanted after, spending some time. That's a typical one. The other one is, the analysis paralysis, number 7. We see buyers very hesitant at times, and they miss out on opportunities. The market has been very active. It's a seller's market, and it's going to continue to be a seller's market for many years. But there are plenty of good opportunities for buyers, and sometimes thinking about it too much, it's just too late in some transactions, and then finding another opportunity gets demoralizing. And other than that, I think the other ones are here and there. So that's about it. I don't have more to talk right now, but I will be more than happy to answer any questions.